waterfall, then prototyping in evolutionary development, prototyping, and then component-based software engineering also with the components and increments. And then we move to spiral model. Extreme programming also in brief we discussed. Spiral also we have done. Next is win-win spiral. So let's we can discuss win-win spiral. So just to recall you in spiral, it was like 4 quadrants were there. The first was to determine the objectives and constraints. The second quadrant was for risk analysis, basically, and to develop the prototypes based upon the requirements, 1% or 2%, the objectives or constraints which you have understood in the previous phase. And the next is third quadrant is for develop and verify. And fourth quadrant is plan the next phase on the basis of your past experience in 3 quadrants. So in this case, it is that the risk analysis came first time. The term was coined first time by Boehm in spiral model. So this also in spiral model, these sectors we discussed, process activities. Then there is one win-win spiral model. I hope it is visible. There's nothing more than spiral model. Just draw one more line. There were only 4 quadrants. Now here there are 6. You can just see 6 or 7 these sectors are there. First will remain same, identify next level stakeholders. Means that here one more thing has come, stakeholders. Okay, like its name suggests, win-win. Means it's a win for both parties, win for client and win for development organization. For both parties, there is we have to ensure the win for both parties. So for that purpose, it is called that win-win. Now you can just consider an example. Like before going into this diagram, we can consider one example. What happens is whenever you talk to your client, maybe in initial meetings, when there is a cost setting, means that scope you are discussing with the client, and then cost is there. So in that case, it is whatever code you will give to the client will say it's too much. No. Means if you will quote 10 lakh, they may ask you, no, 10 lakh is bahut zyada. It's too much. Make it 6 lakh, 5 lakh, 7 lakh. I mean, it's kind of that bargain will be there. And from software company point of view or developers organization point of view, means your representative will always strive for the maximum quote. Maybe that client that okay, our quote is 10 lakh, but yes, I have seen your requirements. I have looked at these all detailed kind of requirements. What I can make out is that these maybe these requirements are only future requirements that we have considered. That maybe after 1 year or 2 year, if these expansions will be there, then these things will be required. So what we can do is we can cut down on that, because at present you don't require, at least for 1 year, or maybe at least for 2 years you don't require this. So we can cut down on those advanced functionalities, and then we can deliver you in say 8 lakhs instead of 10 lakhs. Then customer will understand that code, it's an honest code, and then maybe further you can compromise, you can negotiate, you can discuss all among your team, you can discuss. Okay, it is visible. PPT is visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So what happens is, in this case, it is like the first phase or first sector, it is identify next level stakeholders. This diagram I have taken yesterday only. It is from this Roger S. Pressman. Okay, in this whole PPT was from Somerville, but in Somerville, win-win spiral is not given. So from Pressman, I have taken this. So next level stakeholders means in the beginning it is developer is also on stake. I mean developer means system analyst who is determining the requirements. On stake it means because of whatever he is interacting with the client group, he'll understand that, and in true intent he has to document those requirements. So he's on stake on he or she is on stake because of that whether they are going to document the requirements in true intent or not, because those requirements will be evaluated in the next phase to check its true intent, its consistency, its completeness, okay, its ambiguity for all these. So for that purpose, it is that at this stage, this development team representative is on stake because of the requirement determination, and client is on the stake because of the way they are telling the requirements, whether they are telling in the true intent in the actual way or something kind of that in user stories they are adding something more. Then second is identify stakeholders win conditions. That is what is win conditions. Stakeholder win condition, like I told you that they want to spend only 8 lakhs, but you have quoted 10 lakh. So now you want to identify the win conditions. Sometimes a few requirements, key requirements are the win condition. Okay, if these requirements will be implemented, then it will be customer win. These features will be included, then it will be customer win. Okay, so that way it is identify stakeholder win conditions. I mean, stakeholder has been a new term as compared to your simple spiral model. If we compare these two, rest of the things almost will remain same. Now, identify in first sector you have identified the stakeholders. In second, you have identified the win conditions for the stakeholders. Now, maybe that those features, those requirements to be implemented, that is the win condition for client. But for you, it is not. They are not fitting in your budget, the budget you have quoted. So that way, now in third A, it is reconcile win conditions. Like I told you in the beginning, in example, that you quoted 10 lakh, customer is ready to pay only 6 lakhs. So you need to reconcile somewhere that either advance requirements or the future requirements, they can be for time being, they can be ignored, and later on in form of patches, they can be delivered. So that is kind of reconcile win conditions. Then 3B is establish next level objectives, constraints, and alternatives. If you see now, it will remain same now onwards. These four are left, so they are the same. Establish next level objective, constraints, and alternatives. Then evaluate process and product alternatives and resolve the risk. You have to identify the risk and you have to resolve the risk related to that. On risk, we have discussed in detail during Spiral, and then define next level of product and process, including partitions. Means modular partitions are there, and you have to identify the detailed requirements, then validate the product in testing and the process definitions. Review the comments, whatever through this iteration you have identified, those comments have been documented. You review that. And again, for the next iteration, maybe with this whole work, some new stakeholders have come. The way you have learned the requirements, maybe you have come up with the test plan, or now you thought of that, no, we initially decided these features, but these features cannot be completed with this kind of, say, plan. Okay, so again, it will be identify next level stakeholders. Again, this will be repeated. I hope it is clear. Means here we have to ensure the win of development team and the win of client team. That's why it is called win-win spiral model. If there is any doubt, please do switch on your microphone and you can ask, because I cannot see that chat window. This requirement engineering process in brief we have already discussed. So in next chapter in requirements, we will consider it in detail. Software design and implementation. I mean, in your first phase in definition and then requirements, and then after that it will come design. There can be top level design, bottom up design. We have discussed both. Top down, it's kind of structured in waterfall or in prototyping or in spiral. These all waterfall structured kind of top down means at top your requirements you will define and then you will design and then you will develop. But in component based software engineering, components development, we discussed that it is not top down, it is bottom up. Because in that case, it is that your software components are already there in the repository. Okay, they have been already developed, and you have to just find out the best fit match, which is best suited for the present context to plug in. So now in design, it is a kind of that translation from, you can say, from architectural plans or these kind of, they are to be, because in EAD we discussed logical design and physical design. And for physical design, there was last chapter that we discussed single tier, two tier, and three tier, and then n tier kind of architectures. In that, it is, you can think of that, that is what is the blueprint of the system to be developed. That how these requirements which have been communicated by the client into the real picture, into the real project, how they will be translated. So that complete plan in form of logical structures and physical structures, that will be prepared in software design. And then in implementation, you know that that actual coding, that actual development will be there. Architectural design, abstract specifications, interface design, component design, data structure design, algorithm design, database design, okay, intercommunications design, process intercommunications, because there are n number of modules. So those all modules, they may interact with each other. So all these kind of designs will be there. These are given, I think, requirement specification, then architectural design, abstract specification. Means all these will come from your SRS, interface design, component design, data structure design, algorithm design. So all these will be there, and specifications are along with that. That documentation is also required. Yes, you have object-oriented kind of design also. In UML, these all are there. Okay, that sequential design or state transition or deployment, and then structural model. Structural model will be in DFD also, and data flow models we have already done in EAD. Data flow diagrams, logical and physical. Programming and debugging, I mean, that is a kind of that actual you're coding, and then comes, because debugging is, you can say, outcome of the testing. In testing, you will find out the different kind of bugs, different kind of errors, and you need to plug them, and that will be debugging. Locate error, design error, repair error, and then retest the program. Because it's not, I think in brief we discussed in EAD that whenever there will be any error, you will fix that error. But what is the guarantee that those fixtures, those your remedial actions to fix that error has not generated few more errors? Okay, that's why you need to retest the program after remedial action, after repairing for that error. And that kind of testing will be regression testing. Verification and validation. Okay, in brief, I can tell you, and we discussed also verification and validation, because the whole testing comes under verification and validation. There are two types of, one is verification and the other is validation. I mean, verification is something, I mean, if you will go through Pressman, Roger S. Pressman, it's really difficult to understand. When I read it first time, so it was very difficult to understand. One thing it's given that testing the program, or means whether the program is right or whether the right program, means right is changed, the position of the right is changed, and we have to understand wholly from that. For me, it was very difficult to understand. But I can tell you that verification, it is that you cannot execute that work product. Okay, because in software development, you produce many work products, right from your SRS, software requirement specification document, and then comes your logical design, your physical design, your plans. Okay, that may be software project management plan, SPMP, or it may be software test plan, or there is a software configuration documents, baselines, okay, test cases, code. Okay, means all these things are all work products. All these need to be tested. It's not that in myths we have seen the developer think that whenever till the program is not ready, we cannot test it. But that is a myth. Actually, right from the beginning, when your requirements are ready, you need to test them. So that testing activities has to come under either verification or validation. So it is under verification because it is means you cannot execute it. Requirements that they are written in English like language. So those in that language, if you have written, you can just review it by reading it, not by executing it. So that's why those formal methods came, that you write requirements in a mathematical way, and then theorem provers are there for that, models are there. For that also you need to generate a model. Then only they can be executed and you can prove like a theorem. Requirements document cannot be executed. So that's why they come under verification. I'll share with you at the last that one table that where only verification is applicable and where validation is applicable. So any work product which cannot be executed and that has to be tested, that activity will come under verification. And once you can execute, see your flow chart. Your flow chart is there. Flow chart is also on paper. Flow chart is, yes. How we will define flow chart? Yes, anybody please. What is it actually? Yes, somebody please switch on the microphone. I'm sure you know it.
So the structured way in which how we will approach different things.
We'll approach the different things a structured way. So data flow diagram is not a structured way.
Yes, sir, but it doesn't show how different things will interact with time. Like first, which thing will appear first, then after that, which thing will appear next. So there's not
You
that
you
flow.
mean to say the time is not mentioned, but we mention to the minimum is 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. That way we mention.
Yes, so that are the different systems, subsystems. But in that flow chart, we mention how the which process will appear first and which thing will appear next.
Okay. Anybody else want to try? And
So
I'm
it
sure
is
you all
actually,
of you know. Yes, please, please. Yes.
so
Who is there?
basically, so the Malvika design.
Uh-huh.
So basically, flowcharts show like what is the sequence in the all the steps which are taken in a single process in a sequential manner. So
Sequence of what?
it's a sequence of the steps of the process which are involved in that process.
And data flow diagram is not showing the steps.
So data flow diagrams is like it shows in a single system what will be the different
See,
processes.
see, both of you are telling right, but there are few terms for computer engineers. Okay, because in your interviews also, in your campus interviews for internship or for placement, they look after means they look for those all terms, the key terms. Okay, because your flow chart is pictorial from your primary school. You are reading that it's a pictorial representation of the logic of the program. It's only logic. Okay, steps. Of course, steps are there. Steps of what? Steps of logic that you will give input, then this arithmetic calculation will happen, then this conditional statement will be there, maybe then repetitive structure will be there. So it is kind of pictorial representation of the logic of the program. And data flow diagram is pictorial representation of the flow of data. That is not logic. It is only the flow of data. That is only the difference. So means now I want to just ask you that whether you can execute flowchart. or data flow diagram, or which one we can execute? Yes, please. Malvika, Nazia, Shivam, Madhav.
So we can execute the flowchart.
How?
So because so if we take any simple example, like just adding two numbers is we can make a flowchart for that also. No, so we can execute that.
Yes.
So
How
similarly, we
we can
take for video
execute?
processes.
Like program?
So yes, sir, by making it a program.
No. This execution is called hand running. But of course, we can execute. But it is hand running that against each and every step you will write. Say when there is input A, B, C. So you'll assign A, B, C some numbers. You'll write with your pen on the same paper. And then next is if A is greater than B, you will check the input values A and B, whether it is greater or not. So accordingly, you will follow the path in that flow chart. So that is what is execution. But that is hand execution. It's not that any program is available, any tool is available which can execute your flow chart. Okay, so but it is there that we can execute. Let it be with hand. So it means in flow chart, verification is also possible and validation is also possible. Now you look at a data flow diagram. Data flow diagram is there. Okay, in data flow diagram, maybe it is student registration or it is patient registration or any property registration. You have done so many examples and for your projects also. In data flow diagram, you can show, because it is pictorial representation of the flow of data only. You can just check what will happen with the data. And that is also a design. Data flow diagram is also a design. So if in first phase, you can say if it is giving from student entity to that process, registration process, say you are saying that student details. So you can write on student details, that student ID, student name, student date of birth, student phone number, email ID. So these things will be there. Now after this process, what will happen? What will go to database and what will go to the next process? So it means this is also hand running. This cannot be executed with any program or any tool. But yes, of course, we can execute and we can see the data behavior. Okay, so where we can check the behavior and dynamically we can check the behavior, that will be validation. So program can be executed, but program can be verified also. Because when first time you write the program, it's not that you will first compile it or execute and then only you will come to know about the errors. Okay, because testing is basically the definition of testing, IEEE definition is executing any program with an intent of finding errors. Executing any software with an intent of finding errors. That is what is software testing. So you know that software include many things. Okay, all documentation and code and test cases and all everything. So which part we can execute, okay, dynamically, and we can supply input and we can check the output, then it is validation. But if it is that we cannot execute, like I told you, SRS, it cannot be executed. It's only that you can check it for its completeness, for its consistency, for its ambiguity, okay, for its completeness, and the way that client has communicated, the true intent has been documented or not. So these all can be tested. And that's why it is under verification. Design, that will be verification also. And it's not that all type of designs can be validated. It is that you will see that when it will be more closer to implementation, it can be validated. Then comes program. Of course, program can be verified also and validated also. Okay, I hope it is clear. Got it? If there is any concern, please do raise. Yes, component testing, system testing, acceptance testing, these all we will discuss in detail. Okay, there is a complete chapter on testing. So levels of testing also, I think I just touched in EAD that, yes, anybody can tell me the level of testing, various levels in testing. Means there is, in the first requirements are there. So with respect to requirements, what type of testing? Okay, then comes design. At design level, what type of testing? Okay. Then coding is there. In with respect to coding, what type of testing? Okay. That way. And system engineering activities. With the system engineering activities, what type of testing? Yes. With the requirements, it is acceptance testing. Okay. With requirements. Because all acceptance test cases are derived from requirements. User can tell you that if it will increment the next transaction, then only it will be acceptable, otherwise not. So unknowingly, even user is telling you that there should be one increment. So that is what is acceptance criteria. So that becomes acceptance testing. And in acceptance testing, there are two types of alpha and beta testing. Acceptance testing is always by client. Alpha testing is by client, but within the developer premises at the end, when it is complete software is ready, last testing will be acceptance testing. That's why it is by client. Alpha and beta. Alpha is within the developer premises by client, and it will be a kind of simulated and controlled environment because client is executing that program, but with the instructions given by always developer is on shoulder standing there and giving instructions. Now press this, do like this, next step is this. So that way, I mean, that is a kind of simulated and controlled environment. Independently, client is not executing anything, but it is not true with any software. And the beta testing is, it is in true environment. True environment means live environment, means it is a kind of by client in client premises with the live data. Okay. The only thing is that we know that it is not the actual system. This is the future system. We just want to test it. Means in a way, if it is a banking software, so they will install that software for that day, and whatever transaction they are doing manually, the same thing they will do with that software also, and they will observe, they will see that whether these transactions are being executed, are being completed in the right way, or we are losing something, or some errors are there. So beta testing is the type of acceptance testing. It is performed by client in the client environment with the live data. I hope it is clear, alpha and beta. And still, if there is any doubt, please do ask. I told you the levels with the requirements, it is acceptance. Okay, then it's one circle in Pressman, it's given, I'll discuss in the testing chapter. After requirements comes design. So with the design, it is integration testing. Okay, because design is the complete, you can say, you have the complete architecture of that particular system to be developed. So from that architecture, from that data flow diagram, or from UML diagrams, we have derived certain test cases. So they will see that integration testing will be there. The complete set will be there. Complete modules will be there, and their integration testing. And in integration testing, there are different types of. There is top-down integration, there is bottom-up integration, there is clustered integration, or sandwich kind of integration. That we'll discuss in detail. But integration, it is that on the basis of, because in coding, the next level is coding. So with the coding, as soon as you will develop a function, it will go for unit testing. Okay, unit testing will continue. Unit is as a module independently, that program will be tested. And in integration, it is in that architectural plan, that module will be plugged in and will be checked that whether there is any effect when it will be plugged in the rest of the environment. So whether it is going to create any problem or not. So that is integration. Okay, so another aspect is black box testing and white box testing. So black box testing is also called functional testing. We will just black box. It means kind of we cannot peep in the black box. It's closed. We cannot see the code. Only executable code is there. You will supply input and you will check the output whether that input has behaved. That system has behaved with this input as expected or not. If it is as expected, means the test cases is pass. Otherwise, it is failed. And in case of unit testing, it's a kind of that white box. That is, unit is also part of white box. Code is with you, and you have to test each and every part of the code, whether it is if statement or it's loop or it is switch case or it's whatever it is that you have to test. Okay, so that is unit testing, and in that case, it is the actual program will be tested as a unit, and after that, integration will be there. And then comes system testing. System testing is you component you can also compare with the unit testing also. Okay, so that way it's component testing. Then comes system testing. System testing is on the basis of system engineering activities. System engineering activities we discussed. Who will tell me? Yes, what is system engineering activity? हाँ जी, कौन बोलेगा? Please. System engineering activities. What is it? Recall करवाता हूँ. For example, microwave oven, plane cockpit, washing machine, मोबाइल सेट. ये एग्जांपल्स ली थी मैंने जब क्लास में बताया था. सुन रहे हैं? कौन बताएगा? सिस्टम इंजीनियरिंग एक्टिविटीज. Nobody. Amrit, you are there? Amrit, I think today Amrit is not there. Okay. That's why interaction is less. System engineering activities are like it is a kind of see in your mobile phone or even in washing machine. In your mobile phone, do you think there is any software? Of course. Okay, it will maintain your all contact list, then your all logs, maybe for messages, maybe for your calls. Okay, so all these softwares are there. So system engineering activities are there that you have to make that software interact with the rest of the system, because rest of the system their hardwares are there. Receiving circuitry, call receiving circuitry is there, making call, transmitting circuitry is there, some display circuits are there. So all these components are there, and if they all will they are gelled properly, then only they'll work, otherwise they will not. It's not that only your software is important, all rest of the components are also important. So your software has to gel completely with all these. So that will be system engineering activities. Okay, so because it is all system components are to interact with each other properly, then only the complete system will be formed. So your software can be only one component, and that's why we are concerned with only those software requirements. We are not concerned about the hardware, but software requirements are there, system requirements related to that particular software component. So when we have to plug in that software within the rest of the complete system, okay, it's not a unit or integration. Unit or integration is only about your software programs, software units, software components only. But here we are talking about the complete system. Okay, your software is only one subsystem, and rest of the receiving circuitry in the mobile or in the washing machine is the rest of the system. So your software will be plugged in, and you will check whether it is behaving as per expectations or not, or it's creating problem with some of the component, maybe with the motor or with the spinning, drying, okay, with the all water inlets or with the detergent inlets. So it's creating problem. So that is system engineering activities. So all these testings need to be done. I have already explained. You can go through this. And one more thing that yesterday I communicated to Madhav, that choosing your weapon wisely, I have already uploaded in Classroom along with this process PPT. So you all are to go through that. This is part of the syllabus. It's very, very important. And it is a document from SEI, Software Engineering Institute at Carnegie Mellon, which is Makkah of software engineering in the world. So you have to go through that. In that, TSP, Team Software Process. Team Software Process you can compare with the waterfall model. PSP, Personal Software Process, that is also given. That is also kind of one less than waterfall model. And then Agile, and then MSS, Microsoft Synchronize and Stabilize Process. Microsoft call its development process as MSS. That is also given in that. Okay, so they're all comparisons, their details, they are given. Okay, so you have to go through that, and then you have to come up with your doubts. Okay, tomorrow I'll take the session for doubts, maybe related to process model or related to your choosing your weapon wisely. But I'll see. So whosoever has read it properly or not. Okay, I can have a quiz, small quiz also for that. Okay, so you have to read it very carefully. Read it and come with the doubts. That's why I announced in last week also, and then yesterday specifically I sent the message. The testing phases we have already discussed. You can go through software evolution. Yes, this also we discussed in this RUP or UP we discussed. Formal methods also. Clean room software engineering. Yes, this also be discussed because I told you in this that extreme programming and formal methods. That is the essential condition in clean room software engineering. Case I will this case tools I will cover from the different PPT that already you have EAD. Agile also we have done. Yes, I think with this process model is complete, and still we have 15 minutes, about 14-15 minutes. So please ask questions if somebody has read something. Okay, if you have done something, so please do ask questions. Any doubt in process models? कोई डाउट है तो पूछो भाई.